You are listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
Your main squeeze in nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon on YouTube so you can get notified every Tuesday when we upload a new episode.
You can also add us on Facebook and Instagram at Keeping It Juicy Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 37. We had all of the right intentions to actually record this episode together because the past couple days I was in Texas. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to record an episode together versus, San Diego, Texas.
Right.
But that didn't happen. Yeah, the trip just kind of got away from us, and that's actually what this episode is going to be all about, is just kind of staying on track when you're on vacation, first of all, and then we also want it to be a little bit of an extension of the conversation on like Fatopia and obesity epidemic and whatnot. So I guess we'll just kind of start off with tips to stay on track while you're on vacation, whether or not we followed all of these, but keep these things in mind when you're traveling. And I guess I'll just start off with like my number one tip for myself when I travel and clients when they travel is stay hydrated. Like
water.
Stay hydrated.
If you're going to have one or two alcoholic beverages or not, make sure to get that H2O in. It could be tap water, or depending on where you go to, maybe tap water may not be the best choice, but any sort of water would be always best advised.
And, just for me traveling to Texas, the temperature is different. So,
yeah,
your body, just because like maybe 60 ounces of water when you're home might not 60 ounces might not work when you travel somewhere because of temperature, humidity, all of these different things. The temperature in San Diego and humidity is much different than it was in Texas. So
right.
I constantly felt myself feeling like swollen, and my body's just not used to that.
I mean, keep in mind, like, we also had a different diet compared to our regular everyday life.
Right.
So.
And another thing too, when you're traveling, you're probably going to eat more fast food, more processed food, more food at restaurants, and the sodium is usually through the roof. So drinking enough water will help kind of balance that out, keep things at bay.
Another thing I want to point out is just when you're on vacation, like, try to make it a point to try to split some foods too. That way you can like vary your appetite and try more different things and not overconsume that many calories without having to sacrifice the taste anyways.
Right. And whether that means getting a to-go box or splitting meals with someone, do what you have to do, but try not to overindulge too much. And one thing that we did on this trip that was very helpful is we had breakfast at home every day. So at least there was one substantial, nutritious meal. And try to have at least, one kind of normal thing that mimics what you would eat at home a little bit. So that when you do have those bigger meals out, which you inevitably probably will, we did, it's not quite as detrimental as if you had eaten everything out.
Yeah, that would not be good, and I feel like a lot of other people would be in worse shape than we were, whatever.
Right. So drinking water, still having, some sort of sense about you when you order out at restaurants, and splitting meals are kind of the biggest things that we suggest. And also, I traveled to Texas, and for me, the amount of time that we spend in the car is insane compared to San Diego, where everything is like 20 minutes away. Everything in Texas was like 45 minutes away. So
right. I mean, Texas is more spread out, and you live in much more of a bigger city where everything's a little bit closer. I'm sure it would be a different story if you were in
Right.
another part of California, but especially the Houston area, it's just everything is a lot more spread out compared to the other cities in the state of Texas too.
Mhm, mhm. So depending on where you're traveling, your physical activity will likely take a hit. Mine definitely did just because I wasn't walking around at work or walking around, doing things. We spent a lot of time in the car.
Hmm. But even when we weren't in the car, I'm sure we made the most out of
Oh
basically
yeah. Oh yeah.
any places that we went to because we did walk around a lot. Like we visited
Mhm.
NASA and we walked around that area,
Mhm.
and we
Mhm.
walked around parts of downtown Galveston. So we
Mhm.
still got some
Lots of
steps in.
walking. Mhm.
Right,
Yeah, definitely. But when I look back at my steps for the past couple days, I'm like, whoa.
right,
Even then, although we stayed active, just that much time in the car, like, can
right,
relatively draining to say the least. And that can cause an issue with like water too, because if you're not moving around a lot, you're not kind of working up that thirst and you might end up dehydrated. You end up dehydrated,
right,
you end up overeating because you're misreading those cues. So
right. So I don't know. And then another thing is, I noticed once we got to a certain area that, like, granted, we could have taken the we could have taken the car and gone to another place, but we just look at the map and we realize, oh, we can just walk there.
it's
So we just
6 blocks.
walked.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we don't need to Uber or get in the car or anything. It's just might as
Mhm.
well walk to the other location and really like take in all that
Yeah.
sightseeing and spend some more quality time.
Yeah. That helped a lot. Just walking from one place to the next.
So we mentioned the types, I mean, the different tips that we already talked about going on vacation, but now we're going to go on to the types of food that
Mhm.
she had a food culture shock, to say the least,
Bit,
because
little
like
bit.
people, like there's a difference between the Western diet and then like the European and the Eastern diet versus in America itself. It's so big that different parts of the United States have different eating styles, eating
Right.
habits, and different behaviors and food that are available to the
Mhm.
people that live there.
And, like she mentioned, even though this is all America and it's still all considered an American or Western diet, yeah, just eating this type of food for even 3 days, I think our all of our bodies were like, "Please stop, help," because
I mean, I even live here
yeah,
myself, but I only go out maybe once a
right.
week, and I eat a lot of my meals from home. Like I eat stuff that I usually eat in the morning, and then I bring my lunch every day, and then I eat at home every day.
Mhm.
But like trying to eat out here versus eating out in
It's
San
really
Diego
tough.
it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, it was extremely difficult to find any sort of, like, moderately healthy food item at a restaurant or a fast food place, and even when I felt like I was ordering something, like, mildly okay,
Hmm.
it was just loaded in grease, and I think we had a similar experience. We were, like, looking up a restaurant to eat at, and if you, like, order beans in San Diego, you're probably gonna get, like, black beans with a little bit of, um, cheese on top.
Hmm.
Kind of what you
If that.
expect. Yeah, if that. Sometimes it's like pinto or mashed or refried beans or something. So, yeah, there's fat or lard added back into it, but you know what you're kind of in for. Whereas we went to this restaurant and they all have like bacon bits or ham and they're brewed with
Hmm.
beer. Like
Yep. I mean,
it's
it's a rude awakening. Like when I first came here, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll get some beans with my tacos," and then the beans came with big ass like bacon strip. I was like, "I thought this was beans.
yeah,
This is a bacon strip."
Yeah,
They're like, "Oh, it's pork and beans." I was like, "Okay, but you
that's
didn't
kind
write
of the
pork and
standard.
beans on the menu."
Right. Yeah, we had that problem a lot when the menu wasn't actually clear.
But that is pretty common because they do quite enjoy the pork down here. I mean, I'm not a big pork eater myself, but I mean, that's why now I tend to avoid pork and beans anyways. But
Yeah, it's just, interesting to think about, like, you don't necessarily prefer pork in your diet or you don't eat pork a lot,
mhm,
but just simply by moving to Texas, all of a sudden your diet started to have pork, you know?
right, right. I mean, I try to avoid it when I can. I just
Right.
don't like the taste. But it's a
Yeah.
lot more accessible here, along with barbecue food and
Mhm.
very lathered down foods and burgers and stuff like that. I mean, I think we have a couple main grocery stores, but even the one near where I live right now, I remember I was looking in the cheese section, and there was like no non-fat or 1% milk fat cheese whatsoever. They were all like regular cheese. I'm like, I don't do any of these.
Yeah.
Um, and the meat selection was awful, and it just even with the ones that are close to me don't have the best options, which is why I have to go like a little farther out to go to a decent grocery store.
Right. It's definitely different because, here in San Diego, pretty much anywhere you live in San Diego, you could get to a health foods store within 20 minutes, and it's not a big deal. You're not
Mhm.
going across town. It's relatively accessible, easy to get there. But even when we were the in your city and whatnot, I can see why healthy food is so much more expensive.
Mhm.
And that's because it really is not as accessible
And it's not there's not so much demand either,
for
so
the
there's not
supply
that
is
much supply.
so of
Right.
course it's expensive. Whereas here, it drives me crazy when people say, "Oh, eating healthy is so expensive." And I'm like, "Really? Where are you going?" Like,
Right.
but in Texas, yeah, eating healthy is definitely more expensive. And, all of our huge drizzled in grease items, like all the food we got, it was very affordable. And nothing was insanely expensive. I remember we
Mhm.
went to a donut shop, and there's literally a donut shop like every quarter mile.
Really
But
though. There
we went
really
to
is.
yeah, I went to a donut shop, and yeah, we got a lot of bad stuff. I think we each got 2 donuts,
Oh, I didn't finish mine.
potato soup, um, a boudin,
Oh,
and
you guys got that. I was
yeah,
stuck
no,
on
that's
the
what I'm
same
talking
side.
about. I'm talking about me and Daniel. Me and him each got 2 donuts.
Mhm.
We shared potato soup and a boudin, and it was like, what, 7 or $8.
Mhm.
Like, that's, like, a lot of stuff. A potato
Mhm.
soup would at least cost, like, $5. A They don't have boudins here, but that would at least be
No.
another 3 plus 2 donuts. Like, everything's just cheaper there. And I think he got a drink too,
Right.
and for 7 or $8. And
Mhm.
I don't even wanna think about how many calories were in that or how many grams of fat were in that, but it was cheap. It was super
Yeah.
cheap, so I can see how it becomes very easy to get stuck in that pattern
Mhm.
when it's so accessible, literally, like, every corner, and it's cheap,
Mhm.
which
Yeah. I was also gonna mention that, like, even the style of the food and even how it's cooked is different. Like,
Mhm,
say, for example, we get like 3 tacos in San Diego.
mhm,
San Diego Mexican style food or Mexican style food is pretty it has a lighter feel to it. It's definitely still very tasty,
mhm.
but when you come to Texas, like a lot of the Mexican foods here are Texas style, meaning like they have more sauces and like it's a little bit more lathered with things that you don't
Everything drips.
Yes, everything does drip. But I remember like the tacos that I can finish in San Diego I can finish that pretty quickly versus the tacos here. Like I would definitely not finish 3 tacos. I would probably leave some out or I would just eat the inside because if I ate all of it, I would probably be dying by the end of it.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, everything is just heavier. Everything drips with grease or cheese or sauce of some sort, so
Right. I mean,
it's
it's
just
just
different.
it's just I mean, you're not the first person to say it, so it can't even be a one person opinion because I've had family visit here, I've had other friends visit here, and they've all said the same thing.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
we're just not pulling it out of our asses. So
Yeah, and I've traveled to many other parts of the United States as well. I've lived in different cities. All my family's in the Midwest, and even in the Midwest, it's not as heavy. It
it's
when
not as heavy, but
Mhm.
Midwest style food
It's
is
heavier.
it is heavier and they have a lot of mayo involved from
Mhm,
my experience, but that'll
mhm,
probably have to be another episode where we compare the
mhm,
Midwest to the East
mhm,
Coast, I guess.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
but the Southern style food is definitely the heaviest
different.
because, I mean, there's also a lot of play into history that goes along with it too in the South, and then the different types of food that came here, like boudin, like that's made from minced up pork and liver, um, and rice. So that
It's
was a
cultural.
hmm and then pork rinds and stuff like that, and that's just all sorts of. I mean, I don't eat. I mean, I don't eat pork rinds, but that's a very common theme down here.
Mhm, mhm. So, that just kinda leads us into a little bit of an extension on the obesity topic,
Mm,
and, you know, different parts of the US are definitely higher in obesity, different income levels, education levels, and whatnot, but I
right.
can most certainly say if I moved to the South, I would gain a lot of weight, and that's simply just because of, like, how the food is prepared. It's not
Hmm.
my expectation, like you said, if I ordered tacos here, I know what I'm getting. I know what I can handle. I know what my body can handle. But
Hmm.
if I try to go over there and like order the same thing, it
Right.
it's gonna be double.
I
And
mean, it's not hard to eat healthier here.
mhm,
It's harder. So like
yeah,
it's still accessible. You don't have to go through like a crazy diet. Like I have to eat tofu and 0 calorie noodles for the rest of my life to like be healthy. No, there are other options. They still have carrots here. They still have vegetables here.
yeah,
So it's just
it's
like living down here, you have to be a little bit more mindful, be a little bit more
yeah.
educated. Um, so, and that's where I come in.
And I think that's like the most important point is you just have to be way more mindful,
Hmm.
like especially larger cities, not even San Diego, but just larger cities. There are healthier options, and there are health food stores that are a little bit more accessible.
Right,
And I do think that's pretty much every big city. It's a little
right.
easier, but if you're in those southern small towns,
It's definitely harder. I mean, I do live in a smaller part, like a smaller town.
mhm,
Um, but if some of the things that we can't get here, which a lot of things are pretty accessible now, I can get in Houston. So
mhm,
Houston is pretty spread out. Houston's pretty diverse. So they do have a lot of options.
mhm,
It's a different environment.
mhm,
And there's different priorities here versus San Diego, different looks on health and what it should
mhm,
be on both places.
mhm,
So,
exactly. So, leading back to the obesity epidemic and the conversation on like Fatopia, it's it's hard to, kind of find a solution because there's just absolutely so much diversity in the United States, even from Houston to where you live. You
mhm,
know, just how you manage your weight and how you
mhm,
prioritize your health, even just from city to city, it's different.
mhm.
So it's hard to make these kind of nationwide judgments, I suppose,
Right.
on what health should look like or how we can go about achieving it. Because how I go about achieving it works for here, but it's not going to work everywhere.
Hmm.
So just something to think about.
So, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that we're wrong? That that it isn't hard at all, and
Mhm,
to live in the South and still eat really healthy, or
mhm.
is living in San Diego actually a really bad idea? It's like, let
Oh
us
my
know.
gosh.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, there's always going to be an opposing opinion.
Mhm,
I'm
mhm,
totally open to listening to those ideas as well.
mhm. And I'd like to hear any stories too about like if you have moved cross country or something to go to school or your dietetic internship and kind of what was your experience with the food options there because the US is very very different from state to state, city to city.
Right. I
Mhm.
mean, not only do you go through culture shock, you go through food shock. So
Right.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's an actual terminology, but I just coined it. So what's up?
No, but food shock definitely.
It's-
My body was not happy with me this morning.
But you still enjoyed the food, right?
Of course I enjoyed the food. I love food, but damn, like your body lets you know when you did something wrong. It's just
Right.
it said it loud and clear.
Well, I mean, it wasn't our day-to-day living anyways, so
Yeah.
so
I kid you not, like I've definitely, had splurge weekends, long weekends here and whatnot, and it wasn't nearly as bad as how like I was feeling after eating the food there. And
right.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is obviously not a traditional episode,
Mhm,
and next week probably will go more into different topics. And actually, if you guys do have any ideas that you would like to hear about later on, please let us know.
mhm, mhm.
And then we'll have new nutrition in the news, and then all that stuff.
Yeah, we
So
wanted to make this a little bit more of a experience type episode.
a
So
casual hangout.
yeah, exactly. Just a little chit chat.
Yeah.
But we will definitely get back to our normal structure starting next week. So
Hmm.
yeah.
All right, guys.
All right. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, let us know what you think and if you've had any uh culture shock, food shock experiences.
It's a real thing,
It's
then.
a real thing. It is a real ass thing. All
Okay.
right. All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
You mean squeeze and nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for a brand new episode.
Also, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Keeping It Juicy Podcast.
We'd love to hear from you, so please leave us a review
5 stars, no less.
on whatever platform you're listening to, or send us an email at keepingitjuicypodcast@gmail.com.
Or if you have any topics you'd like for us to touch upon, shoot us an email. Until next time, don't do anything that I wouldn't do.